Okay, maybe we're switching. Maybe we're not switching. Here we go.
Oh.
Hey people, welcome to this week's DarkOrbit Q&A session. I'm Flips, Flips a lot. I'm the new community manager on DarkOrbit. Some of you may know me already. And now I have a camera, isn't this great? And with me tonight is Jörg, who you probably know, and Sergey, who you probably know. And we're here to talk about the assembly launch date. Keep your eyes peeled for that. And what we do with cross-server stuff, discussing our options and the stuff we can do. And I'll hand it over to Jörg so he can take it away.
It's quite unusual today for me because Flips on the monitor he's down there and well, whatever. So welcome for today's Twitch session. Sergey and I, as Flips has mentioned already, want to walk you through our, how did I call it? Server population considerations. We have prepared a couple of slides, with the beta test results that we presented. We thought it might be more interesting for you if you have it on the screen than just the two of us talking.
My idea was I just wanted to, last time I mentioned that it would be really lovely to walk you guys through the thought process that we are undertaking here and just maybe give a glimpse of why the hell does it take us so long to come to a solution or to kind of like to finally to finalize and to make this happen. But today maybe it becomes a little bit more clear for you.
Flips, would you be so nice and put the slides on?
Depends on what you give me for that.
What?
It's okay.
Thank you.
There you go.
Because my first question is, why the hell did it take us so long?
Well, because that's a good question. Thank you. Nobody really asked us before. So yeah, the thing is that, I mean, in some cases, many things sound very, very straightforward. Like you say, oh, we need to do something with server population, and everybody jumps in and says, oh, we need to server merge, and what it implies is that there is a lot of things that in the game are not supposed to happen on several servers simultaneously.
Yeah.
Everything is isolated, everything has their own kind of like ratings, rankings, history, and so on.
But that's stuff that we're going to talk in more detail later. I just don't want to. I just first want to know that want the people to know that there is not just one solution.
Yes.
There are several, and all these solutions that we are thinking and talking and considering have multiple lists of subtopics that we need to tackle.
I just want to let you know, guys, that we have now a very interesting plan, and we'll be developing the plan going forward, and we'll share the details of like what's coming up and so on. What we want to show you today is the list of options or angles angles of attack which we use to address this problem. It doesn't mean that there is a bunch of options and we have to select one. It doesn't mean that we are thinking and we are not sure. We know what we are doing, definitely. We just want to show you 3 different angles and to talk about them a bit more detail. These are not mutually exclusive, mind you. It doesn't mean that if we show you 3 things, we pick one and do only one. It's not true. We are going for the best kind of like mixed approach. We just wanted to talk about these 3 specific things that we are discussing now. And the first one is accounts transfer. Very obvious thing. In many games it's already present. People can just take their account and transfer to the other instance.
Or we could do that for them.
Well, obviously. I mean, they press the button and we do the rest, as always.
No. I mean, we could potentially, which we don't do, just take the population from one server, transfer all the accounts with all the database attachments, etc., to another instance.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, it's understandable, I guess. I hope everybody is super clever, as our DarkOrbit players are really clever, we know that. If you can transfer one account to the other instance, you can transfer all the accounts. And so basically this system allows us to offer selected account transfers and also allows to move the whole instance, or to move the whole server to the other server.
Would allow us.
Would allow us, of course.
Because there are a couple of things that we could also do, like
so the second
Chats.
part is cross-server zones. That basically means that certain maps and certain areas of the game are shared between several instances, so you can run into someone from the other instance, or interact with someone, or fight with someone, or I don't know, do something with someone from the other instance. That's just simple.
And the do something is the trickiest part for us.
Yes, of course.
And of course we have not a third option, which kind of like mirrors the second one, but is more specialized.
Well, if you look at the Ultimate Battle Arena guys, for instance, that is a system that works cross-server. So you are fighting with the players from all over the world. That means that we could create similar specific battlegrounds or arenas, which would provide us the opportunity to, basically clash different players from different instances together and provide them with some exciting gameplay without actually having to move anything anywhere. That's also something interesting for us.
But at the moment we just have 1 versus 1, so that is a quite easy solution for us, because we don't have to look for multiple players from multiple instances playing against another group of multiple.
Sure. Current solution, like UBA, Ultimate Battle Arena, is simple in a sense that it allows only one player to fight some other player. So we basically just have to select this pair. And we will talk a bit later in detail about what are the implications if we want to make really like a group gameplay of some kind of another on the kind of like cross-server battleground.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's go on. We now have to have a couple of things that we always have to keep in the back of our head when we want to actually put some solution into place. And that's, of course, we have a couple of features in the game that need to be considered, like chat. How will it be possible to chat across several instances? Because right now our chat system is not the most comprehensive system that's possible. Clans at the moment only allow people from one instance to group together and play as a clan battle stations, of course.
Well, all those implications, of course. Well, everything that clan does is strictly down to one specific server, and that's something that we have to keep in mind.
There's the friends list, because if you have friends on one server, if you move to another, what should we do with them? What should you do? You would have no friends anymore.
Well,
you would have to find
it's a
new
very
friends.
sad perspective.
If you put it this way, yes.
You will have no friends anymore.
But that's something that we're looking into.
And we want everybody to have a lot of friends, guys. That's why we are considering this stuff.
Then, of course, there are missions, achievements, rankings, which require you to do certain things.
It's basically like it's a question, not only like a design question for me or for my team. It's also a technical consideration, because as you can imagine, your mission results, when you do a certain mission, the results go in a certain database and so on, and they are registered somehow. And if we want to make your missions go in that and be registered while you are playing on some other instance or cross-server, cross-instance battleground or something, all that has to be considered, because it has to be requirements that we submit. Like we designers say, missions have to be counted, and then technical people, the the programmers, the tech guys have to come up with a solution. How do we do that? How do we translate that to your respective
They
table?
need to put it into a language that our computers speak.
Yes.
Then there are, of course, then is the backend. Huh? Ah, there it is. As Sergey just said, the database considerations need to be kept in mind. The kill logging, for example, the mission achievement thing. And of course, all this technological thing, gizmo stuff, has performance limits.
Yeah.
We can't just throw everyone together on.
Well, it's that performance limits, and I mean we all know that players are very keen on having their game run smoothly and so on, and we really try our best to make sure that the game runs as smoothly as possible. But obviously, if we start just putting more players together in one very, very narrow, very kind of like small environment, we can end up with some problems that not only the performance problems, but also like you have to have enough stuff to do all together. Like if you are going for specific NPCs, there should be enough NPCs and so on. All that comes into consideration altogether. And I just really hope, guys, that you are not bored by this, because it's just like we just open the window to the world of very boring game development.
and game development. I don't think it's boring, because we've been working with gaming companies for a couple of years now, and I still think it's one of the most terrifying and still most terrific working environments I can imagine.
Yeah, sure, but I mean, it's not like, oh, we'll be awesome explosions and NPCs and cutscenes and whatever. Database considerations, I can imagine that it might sound a bit tedious, but we have to press on, and we have to let you know, guys, what is happening further. Yes. So,
yes.
the
database rework. How do we best explain that? Let's just put it this way. Every user has an ID.
Yes.
And behind that ID, we have such a long list of data stored. The experience, the ores, the items, XP, honor, iridium, credits, etc., etc., etc. And every of these entries is connected to another one. The inventory, for example, every item has a special ID. Every quest has some ID, and all that data that would have to be translated into how would that work? I mean, we number all that like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Oh, to be honest, I have no idea. How would that, like, I'm not a tech lead or tech person. What I can say is we have to bear in mind, guys, that when we transfer account, it has to keep its integrity. So if you started a mission, you have to be able to continue it. If you have an achievement half done, you have to be able to continue it. If you have a certain rating somewhere, we need to make sure that you understand what happens to that rating and so on. Furthermore, we need a very clean way to erase and restore and rewrite the entries in a database in a bulk. And obviously, when since DarkOrbit is such a kind of like venerable product, nobody considered that when we started, and obviously now we have to deal with all this stuff. We have to deal with the problem: how do we make our database work with this clean rewrites, transfers, restores, and so on? That's all has to be considered, and obviously we face a lot of questions like, do players really need to continue their missions? And we of course say yes, sure, and then tech people go away and say, okay, we need to think how that can be done, and so on.
Jeez, that's like a ton of things to think about. Rankings.
Yeah, so rankings is another issue, because we have a lot of different sources from where rankings come. Like there is a special ranking for this, for that. I'm sure you know all that. But the thing is that they are all stored in different places, and they are all stored differently. So when we look at the system that would allow us to transfer accounts, we need to understand what we can transfer and what we can't, what logs can be kept and what logs will be just lost, and how do we cope with that? Is it acceptable? Is it not acceptable? And so on. So some rankings are calculated on a daily basis, and they take into consideration the recent developments, which are obviously written in database on a specific instance. So we really have to look very carefully what is transferable and what is not transferable. Where would people end up if the account is transferred, and so on. That's all something that we think about, and we basically carefully calculate the circumstances and the consequences of such a change.
Yeah, and as we mentioned last time, what would happen to people who are in the top positions on their server if we would just move everyone off to a different server? They would probably not be very happy if they then end up in the middle rankings of the list.
That is the one kind of like 1.1 consideration, and imagine the opposite situation where you are on your own instance and somebody comes to your instance with a higher rating and so on. So yeah, there is a lot of questions here. So we are looking and all that and see how do we best resolve it. Obviously, I just need to kind of like say we will have a plan and we will communicate what exactly we are doing. I just want to remind again, it's not that we are like this is what we are doing. It's just we are looking at different angles together with you guys, and I want to say that we will make sure that players are aware of what is happening when and how, but the solution that we'll have will probably be a compromise solution. So we will have to satisfy as many people as possible, but yeah.
But you just said we have a plan. I think
Sure.
some players don't believe us.
Well, I can understand we don't have very believable faces, I guess, but really we do have a plan down which we proceed. And since we already have done some parts of work, we can share this stuff with you now.
As we do right
Yeah.
now. Friends list, I think.
Well,
we
yeah,
covered
it's
that.
pretty straightforward. Like currently, friends lists are only instance based. If we want them to be cross instance, it's just like, or we will want to transfer them to the other instance. How does it work? If the people who are in this friend list are not transferred, so like. I hope the questions implied kind of like are very, very obvious there, guys.
Okay, so what's next on the list? Oh, support features.
Yeah.
That's something
That's more your area.
That's more my area, because I'm in daily touch with our support team, and we must not forget that every player has the right to get
to
support.
be wrong.
No, has the right to get support. And one of the things that we are constantly struggling with is how can we give the best support to our players. One of the things that we need to keep in mind when we do all that cross-server thing is to have the proper features added to our control panel. That means that we need to be able to follow which player was transferred to which server, from which instance, and if there's something going wrong, how can we restore data? How can we follow up on logs? Can we move players if something, if they're maybe the last ones on their server and then manually move them somewhere? Our support team needs to be able to see which items were transferred in which way to which instance. So all that logging is one of the most important things on my side.
Yeah.
Because if someone out there tells me, "Oh, it didn't work," we are the ones who then have to check. Okay, find out why it didn't work, and to restore the data is our biggest thing.
Concern.
Right. Concern. Thank you. I'm losing my English sometimes.
Well, as you might have noticed, neither of us have English as a native language, so you have to just deal with it. So the fifth point is obviously we need when we consider something like that, we have to make sure that there is a very thorough protection mechanism. So like there is no possibility for frauds or griefing or exploits. Like I mean, we know that sometimes our players are very open and generous and they share their account data with someone and then they find it, I don't know, the ship is completely stripped and so on and so on. The cross server functionality obviously offers a whole new range of different things that you can do with your enemy.
Yes,
whose
my
password
brother transferred my account to a very small instance I didn't want to be on. And
yeah, so that mechanism has to be in place as well, and we have to make sure that we know what's happening when and to whom, so that we can be in full control and provide our players with very transparent understanding of what's happening.
right, I'm just looking up questions, and it seems like we're covering all of them.
Come on, really, guys,
Yes.
you should try harder. Like, we shouldn't answer questions before they appear. Okay, so
Yeah, logging, data integrity.
well,
I think we covered
that's
that.
super obvious. Just that you have all sorts of logs, so you can see who killed you or whom you killed and so on. And we want to make sure that it's not broken in any way, and you have the full authority to look at your history and have the full overview of what's happened to your ship or to you in the course of like the gameplay. So yeah.
Sure. So all these things that we now mentioned, they are not exclusively considerations for transferring accounts from one server to another. We need to keep them also on our radar when we go for like cross-server event games. That's
Yeah.
one of the options that we talked about before. Having sector control, team deathmatch, like group-oriented play across different servers on specified maps.
Yeah, so we like it basically means that we have a dedicated map that is separate from all the other normal maps where people are transferred and they have a match there and some team wins and get rewards and so on. We haven't looked at this part for a while. We know we have event games such as Sector Control and Team Deathmatch, and I know that when I talked to some players in the test instance chat, we had a discussion about Scoremageddon. So there are event games that people like, and there are event games that are currently in game. We want to look at that specifically and see if it's possible to make it cross-server. But as you can see, there is a lot of things that we need to consider. And if we have a cross-server event like Sector Control or Team Deathmatch, very simple. 3 teams kill each other, whoever is alive by the end of the match wins.
But 3 teams, you know, like three
factions.
three factions, 3 teams from different servers from.
Well, currently no, but I'm just saying, like, imagine that would be cross-server. That means that there has to be an event queue that that matches people into the teams, or if you have, so there is a queue, there is a matchmaking that makes sure that the teams are balanced. There is a proper reward mechanic that it should be awesome to win. It should really feel good, and you should really get cool rewards, which at some point these event games have somewhat lost their appeal.
But it's not just that, it's also the technical implication.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, if you win a match somewhere on cross-server map, we need to make sure that whatever rewards we have, they got to the right player on the right instance in the due time. If we have that, we obviously want to have some missions that support this system or provide more rewards, more incentives, and so on, or achievements. And this all has to be, if that is happening on the cross-server zone, it has to be transferred to the instance and registered there so that player can get all the rewards, get achievements, and so on and so on.
But shouldn't that just happen automatically? Like if data is taken from database 1 and then players play on that server with a database, then everything should be pretty straightforward, you know? Like, isn't it that easy?
It sounds straightforward, but basically for each single point which we have to consider, there is a certain kind of like time tag on it, because when we say, oh, this should be registered, it's a separate system. It works somehow separately. It should be registered. Oh, the achievements should be registered. Okay, it's another separate system. It works separately. It has to have a separate kind of like a wrapper to make sure that it goes in the right direction. Then the other points in this list are like group system, of course. Like if you want to play this event, which means that people are playing in the teams, can you bring your team? If you can, then the matchmaking becomes a bit more complicated for us, and because pre-made team obviously have an advantage of being pre-made, let alone that it's like we have to select players that would match, I don't know, the overall strength of the equipment, but we also need to make sure that we take into consideration that pre-made teams, well, they coordinate better because they know each other and
maybe
so on.
have TeamSpeak
They might
servers
have a
and whatever.
TeamSpeak or Skype or whatever else, and they will coordinate better, so they have to have kind of like they automatically have an advantage, so we have to protect it.
And on the other side, you may have a pickup group made up by people that were just randomly thrown together.
Yeah, so we have to consider that. Like, do we make a distinction, or do we just say that if you are in a group and you will be in the queue for a battleground and so on, you will have special, like you will be slightly higher in the rating because you have a coordinated team, or we assume that you have coordinated team. So, and lastly, we looking at the amount of regional like which players are playing against which players on this battlegrounds. Everybody against everybody, or we have clusters or time zone clusters or regional clusters, or that's a question that we are now looking into. We're basically working on this on these solutions as we speak. But again, I want to remind you again, guys, that we are now going through the angles of attack on this problem, and we are not talking about how we are going to do it, and we are not talking about the order, or we are doing just this thing and so on. So this was about the cross-server event games.
And of course, cross-server zones, which would be the overall solution for...
Well, it's pretty straightforward. Again, sounds pretty straightforward that you have a zone or a specific map, like PvP maps for X and so on, starting zones and the other stuff, which are just shared across several instances. Like of course, then there is a lot of questions that we already covered. People will have to be able to chat to form a group, especially if they're coming from the same faction. Then there is a question, can you invite a player from the other instance to your friend list? Because you play on the one map, you play regularly and so on. There is a question, are you able to receive or send a clan invite? So there is a lot of stuff there that we have to look into, and we have to make a decision. We have to make sure that players are happy with that decision. But the decisions, as I said, we have made already some decisions, and we are forming kind of like a full scope of a full attack plan on this problem. And once that is ready, we'll be sharing it and we'll be taking feedback, obviously, because again, what I want to stress, we don't want to do this thing just for the sake of doing it, putting a check mark and saying like, see guys, you've asked it, we've done it, and we forget about it. We want to make sure that it's an addition. It really is an addition, and it's beneficial for everybody, because like that might be not so straightforward, and all the other stuff that is mentioned here, like if there is a map that is shared between instances, should we have a player limit on it to ensure that everybody has full access to all the features on the map? Do we balance the load correctly? What happens to clan battle stations on such maps? Are they cross? What happens to the clans who build these battle stations? Do they participate in the ranking in their own clan?
What happens if clans or players have the same names and all
Well, yeah,
details
exactly,
like that?
that's the details are something that we are basically going through now and trying to make a proper solution for each detail. And finally, if we have a cross-server gameplay, like really a zone or several zones where players can do something together, I'm sure that they will be happy to know who is the best. And that's the whole other story. We need to make sure that there is some kind of a cross-server leaderboard or ranking score that shows your position relative to the other people with whom you play. Because currently, as we said, we live, each of our players live in their small world of their own instance, and even if they play on several instances, each account is super separate. So that's what we have to take into consideration as well when we talk about something like this.
Seeing the questions, ranking seems to be one of the big topics. Someone is suggesting that we should just drop all rankings. Some other people say that we just throw all the rankings together and have them next to each other, like team US 1 has this ranking, Turkey 1 server has that ranking,
that's
etc.
something that is possible, yes. I mean, I don't want to go into much detail, and like I would really love if you will send us this feedback, and obviously our moderators will collect everything from the chat. I just don't want to dive into that much, but I just want to mention that imagine you have a very old server and a very young server. So that will already, like, the people on the very old server had a lot more time, just time to do everything, collecting ranking points. So that's why we just don't want we want to acknowledge the achievements of our oldest and most dedicated players. Simultaneously, we don't want to put people on the newer and smaller instances at a disadvantage. So basically, we are looking for a common ground that would satisfy the most players, and obviously we are looking for input and contribution. So if the players might listen to us talking and go like, come on, this is not a problem, this is the obvious solution. And it might be really obvious, so make sure, guys, that you really write down and put somewhere, like on the forums or in the chat, in the Twitch streams, some of the obvious stuff that we are not noticing, because we are people, as you might have noticed, and that means that we make mistakes and we might not notice something. So please do let us know if there is something obvious we're missing.
One obvious thing, I guess, would be, why don't we do it like C-Fight? I know we've been talking about this before the stream started briefly, but maybe you could just give your considerations to our listeners and viewers.
Well,
but maybe
we have a very good connection with the C-Fight project and with their design team, and in general, like, we basically neighbors on the same floor, so we are talking a lot, and we are using their experience. But unfortunately, as I said, we don't have a magic transfer solution button. So even if we decide that everything that C-Fight did we have to repeat, obviously,
with the cross server zones.
Yeah, with the cross server zone, like we just repeat their solution. We have to re-implement it, and while doing that, we will see that the structures of the project are different. The structures of the data that is important for the players is different. The activities might be slightly different, and so the ideology, obviously, so we looked at solution, and that's why the cross-server zones are in this list, because we looked at what C-Fight did and so on, but we just want to make sure that we take all that experience, and including negative experience, into consideration, and make sure that our solution, if not better, but at least it's as appropriate and as aligned with the needs of our specific project and our own players as possible. That's
All right.
Yeah.
So that would cover my presentation, or the stuff I put together for you. So do we do that?
what.
Make
Do
the
we-
right decision?
Of course, we make the right decision, but there is a trick. We can only make the right decision if we get the right feedback.
And
Because
The right basis for discussion.
because if we basically are just, we think it's the best thing and we put it out there and everybody is silent, we assume that everything is okay. So be vocal.
But they are not silent. They really give us their feedback, and I think we have a lot already received in terms of feedback on other topics. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm swimming a bit because there are so many questions. Look at this. There's so many questions.
Luckily, yes. Luckily, I don't have to read them, but
Yeah, I forgot my
will-
reading glasses as well.
yeah, just for your information, while York is swimming in the chat, after the Twitch stream, we always have a log of all the questions that were asked in the chat, and we, with design team, basically go through everything. So even if we don't answer something right now online, we will at least go through all that. So if you write the question and think, oh, you never get to it, just please do write it. We'll get it and we'll get through that and maybe even answer it in the next Twitch session if we find it's very interesting and very important for everyone. So yeah.
And that brings us to this question: will there be a vote players can participate in?
Vote?
Vote in terms of, are we?
No,
No.
that will not happen.
So we're not taking our player feedback into consideration.
So-
what exactly
no.
what we just said.
So if I'm not sure in which form it will be. Obviously, a vote. If we will do something like a vote, we will most likely go for a in-game survey,
Yeah.
so that we touch the most players, because unfortunately we know that not everybody read the forums. So if we do a voting poll in the forums, we will end up with I don't know, results that might not reflect the whole player base point of view. But on the other hand, I want to stress that if you're thinking about the vote on which of these three things to implement, it's not the question of vote, it's not a question of choice. These are just the kind of like the different sides from which we approach the problem. But the solution will not be pick one and do that. The solution will be a mixture of all the approaches and a kind of like a rollout plan that would say we'll do this first and then this comes and then this comes and then this comes. So in that regard, we probably will not need a vote. But if we will have a big question like, do we do this? I don't know. What do we do with ranking, for instance? Like, if we end up with having two options and we really can't choose and we really don't know what would be the best, we will we will totally reach out for the players and ask, okay guys, here are two things we can do for us. Either works, for instance, and it's just again, the point is we don't want to break anything that is important to the players, and that's why we're taking these slow and gradual steps, and we are encouraging everybody to talk to us, and we will be reaching out on specific questions, and if there has to be a vote on something, there will be a vote in one form or another.
Essentially, what we are doing now is we are preparing a document that will be an overall vision for our server merge. Then, of course, we can, like what we just did, present that, listen for some feedback, work this feedback into our concepts, and then if something is final, we just will present it as well, and then talk you through.
what would happen? What is happening currently is we have shown you kind of like a tip of the iceberg, and we are preparing not one but like a whole bunch, a series of documents, and kind of like an overall vision and approach to all this to solve this global problem. And once we have it fleshed out in a form where we can really share it, because we will be sure that we have answered all the questions for ourselves, and now it would be time to talk to the players and say, okay, we know how to do this from the technical standpoint, we know all the drawbacks and so on, which are obvious for us, and now your turn.
There are a couple of questions that look like they are touching game mechanics, like if we merge the servers, will there be more spawns of specific NPCs? But I think that is something that we need to discuss when we know what we put together in which frame and how many players we let into these zones, etc., etc.
Well, obviously, that's exactly what the question that is something that we are looking at very actively. We want to make sure that we do not put people at disadvantage just by saying, oh, you have more players on the instance now. That means that there are twice more people wanting to kill that one particular poor NPC. So yeah. it obviously, like, it's simple for us, but it doesn't bring any value to the players, and that's why we don't want to do that bluntly. We want to make sure that everything is still accessible.
Everything will be accessible.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
I mean,
okay.
As accessible at least as it is now. So I mean, I know that there are certain areas which players like to make ambushes at and so on. So obviously we are dealing with a huge system. Like a game at this point in time is a very huge collection of systems, I would say, and obviously we are not able to do a magic octopus trick and just touch everything at the same time, but we have to make sure that when we do this particular move, and when we approach players with a solution to the server population problem, we make sure that the level of comfort is the same or higher, but not lower than it was before. And I know that many people might write now in the chat something like, but the level of comfort is ridiculously low even now.
Improving
That's
on
a
that.
pity.
Improving
We're
on
working on that. Yes, we know that in some cases it's problematic, but we have now we have joined with the analyst, and we are working on a lot of stuff. We are basically analyzing a lot of different data that we gather. Like we look at the apart from all the game metrics, we also look sometimes at the server different like FPS metrics and resolutions that players have, and so on and so on. So we are looking at, we are trying at least to look in every direction, but we can't possibly walk in every direction at the same time. So please be patient.
One pair of eyes, one pair of legs, just works.
We have more eyes and more legs, but as a team, we are going like.
At least into the same direction. That is good.
We have to do that. Otherwise, it's just it will not work. I mean, we have to deliver results.
Yes. What? Assembly lunches? It lunches.
A heavy lunch.
No. What is going on there?
I don't know. I mean, I've been seeing some strange stuff happening over there.
Yeah, he's fooling around. We cannot confirm or deny anything. I'm just looking if I can get on the test server.
If you wondered how Helix Group operates, like that's exactly how Helix Group operates. Breaks into official broadcast and starts just putting
doing
in
stuff.
messages.
Yeah, very weird. Give me a second. I'm just trying to break into something as well. Our own test server. Hopefully that works. No. Okay. No, I can't. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I can't. That was totally and not discussed with anyone. I just wanted to try that.
So everybody has surprises. So next time I'll bring a surprise of my own. I don't know, something.
Yeah,
I have to think of something. Maybe confetti or something.
I wanted to present or not present. I just let the people have a glimpse at the ship customization improvements, the loadout transfer
Yeah,
that's still being in the works.
We
but-
basically like working on it, and we want to show it in advance because obviously we took the feedback that you guys gave very seriously, and we worked on a solution that would allow players to transfer equipment between comparable ships. So if you have a Venom or something like that, you can transfer it to the other Goliath type ship, but we want to show it, and to show it we want to finish it. So yeah,
Yeah.
once that's but that's not that's hopefully that's a matter of very soon.
Our developers won't let me in. They do not grant me access to the test server, probably because they're not quite finished yet with
Yes.
the details.
So it's secret. They keep
I
it
hate
secret
secrets.
from you.
I've seen other stuff flying around in emails concerning potential dates, but we're not talking about these. We're not talking about launch dates.
We will like announcement will be made in due course. Let's
In
say
due
that.
course.
Yes.
Yeah. I see 2 or 3 questions again on what NPC rewards and if other players, if we do cross server zones, if other players would get better rewards. But I think that's something to be discussed later.
To be honest, I didn't understand that. So if you have a guess,
people think that if they are on one server and want to play on a cross server map or on another server or somehow, they should get better rewards.
maybe.
Maybe.
I mean, why
Maybe.
not? We'll see. Like that's something that we're looking into. Like if we make a special map, so we currently have a collection of maps, and we can go and see if there are some maps that we can make a server that already exist. We can also look into creating a special map where people could play together, and there would be specific things that are fun to do, and I guess the rewards are part of fun.
Yes.
But the details like that is obvious. Like I would love to hear the reasoning behind it. Like if you're playing on specific zone or crossover zone, you want better rewards. I would like to know why. What is the kind of like the implication? What is the reason? Why do you think it's fair? And maybe it's really fair, and maybe that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
So I mean, why not?
There is just one kind of controversial question open. I don't know if we can answer that. I would just at least talk about it. Why aren't we publishing drop chances? Why are we not giving people the exact percentage number when something...
Well, because in some cases the drop chances is something that we look at carefully, and sometimes we think if we really need to adjust them or not. But generally, well, I don't see I don't know any particular reason, but it's just kind of like a tradition, I guess. we like. If that's something that bothers everybody, and if something that's very interesting to everybody, we can look in. Because, I mean, what I have seen, guys, the people who put some effort, they really calculate our drop chances pretty accurately. So probably there is no reason on going like vague on this one or something like that. And obviously, if we make as like sometimes it happens, we make a drop chance by mistake, everybody recognizes it immediately. That means that, well, basically we are used to writing it like our like external communication in a certain way, which says like, oh, you're getting the chance of getting this and this and that. And to be honest, at some point we are just going on the rails. And if the drop chances, you would really like to know the exact drop chances here and there, well, we can look into that, and we can see if we really are if we really we can share, because we want to make sure that if we share the drop chances, we won't iterate on them very fast and so on. We want to make sure that they are as stable as possible. And I want to also to note that we never change any chances without letting you know that the chances have been changed, because I see sometimes people go on the forums and say something, oh, the materializer chances have been messed with, or the boxes chances have been messed with, and so on. They haven't changed since, I don't know, since like I'm with the project. So it's all super stable, and these chances probably we will totally can share. And the in the other, like, I marked this myself to as a note to myself, and I'll definitely look into that. I think it's a very valid concern, and to be honest, it's like I was like, yeah, really, why don't we?
I know that for a long time we didn't mention any algorithms or calculations that were in the game, because sometimes we ourselves didn't actually know how exactly the formulas were put together, because some stuff was on different places
we have
in the
some
code.
legacy stuff, like, and I mean there are some instances where we accidentally fix a bug that was 7 years in the game, and something changes dramatically and everybody is panicking. But the thing is that I need to check everything, because there is also a consideration of possible exploits and so on. So I mean, there are some things that we don't let people know how exactly do we work with the detection algorithms, for instance, on the very obvious reason, because we want to be ahead of cheaters. And in this case, there might be also some considerations that don't come to our mind, but even if there are such considerations, I'll be happy to share everything in 2 weeks. So that's something.
Okay.
I will tell exactly why we don't do this, or I will say when we will do this, or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind. There's one suggestions: clan maps in the future for cross-server functionality. We should probably look into that special kind of map as well at one point, but
so yeah, I mean, ideas like this is very hard to discuss on Twitch. I will mark it. But if there will be some kind of a forum post somewhere, preferably in English
or Russian,
and there will be this suggestion, and it will be forwarded to CMs, or I myself will see it and read it. That would be perfect, because one of my kind of like things that I would really like to improve upon is the clans in general, because I feel like clans don't have much to do, and I would love to give people more things to do together with the clan. But that's currently, as you might have noticed, that's not on the top of our priority list. But even so, I would like to hear the ideas that people have about this, and if they are talking about clan maps, I can imagine like a dozen different ways it can be done. I would love to know more and know details, like what do you think would be awesome and why. And yeah, let's just...
In general, we prefer feedback.
Well, yeah, we prefer feedback, and I mean, if it comes to the ideas, I would really love to see something like this is the idea, this is why it's cool, this is what it's about, and so on. Because I mean, if we're talking about something that has been around for a while, like, I don't know, like server population or assembly, it's very easy for me to discuss. But if something mentions something like, I don't know, what about flying monster, and then like, well, sounds fun, but how
Why
do
should we?
how do we know what is that?
All right. So I think we're already at the limit of our
Okay.
recording time.
Oh well.
There may be some 2 or 3 questions, but we'll be back in 2 weeks.
We'll be back.
That's all we can say for now.
Yes.
Did we give out any launch dates for certain features that we
Maybe.
are currently
I
ready?
mean, my only hope is people do pay attention to what happens on the screen. And
What? Screen? Oh yeah. Ah! What's happening down there?
oh, that's an empty leaf. Yep.
So yes, that means that we actually have a feature ready and
Yes.
can announce it today to be released on.
That's a new step in our history.
Yes.
The feature launch is announced live on Twitch. We're launching assembly on Monday.
Yeah. And
Stay
ship
tuned.
customization is following.
Yeah, ship customization is following. Before that, we obviously want your feedback on the changes that we've made.
Yep.
But on this note, stay tuned and make sure you log in Monday and check out what's happening.
We're
Yeah.
looking forward for the feedback.
Exactly.
Certainly. Yeah.
Flips.
Yes.
Final last words.
Thank you everybody for tuning in. The chat has been lovely as always, and thank you to the mods for helping us out. We don't know the exact time we're gonna release on Monday, but it's happening on Monday. So just be online on Monday, and
Stay
you'll
tuned
know when it
and
happens.
buckle up.
Yes,
It's coming.
it's happening. All right, guys. Wish you all a great evening, and share your feedback via the forums and stuff like that. Follow us on social media, and see you all in 2 weeks. Signing
Yeah.
off. Bye bye.
Ciao.